Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 12 in the Jobvite Summer to Evolve series. Last week, you had a chance to learn about AI with Natalie, and this week, I'm going to talk to you about the analytics that matter the most in talent acquisition. So, if we haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Carly Sapp, and I'm a customer success training developer here at Jobvite. I've been with the company for over 2 years, and prior to being here, I was also a customer. One of the reasons I like to point that out is because I get to be on this side where Jobvite is coming out with new and improved technology like next-gen analytics, and I get to see all of the things we're doing to help make reporting even easier for you, the customer. But then coming from the side of being a customer, I know what it's like to have all of those conversations about where are things going wrong, or what can we do to improve? How can we save money? How can we, make the time to fill a little shorter? All of those discussions I have had firsthand. So as we talk today about analytics that matter, I do know that it can be overwhelming because there's so much data that you can choose from. But what I want to do is choose the ones I think are most important, and then hopefully you can walk away feeling like you have a better idea or at least a plan of what you want to go measure yourself. So with that, I want to go ahead and jump into the presentation. As I mentioned, this is the last week in our 12-week Summer to Evolve series. If you're just tuning in or you've missed a few weeks, I would highly encourage you to view our past 11 weeks of Recruiter Skill Session videos in your free time. Each week, we released a Recruiter Skill Session on Tuesdays, followed by several days of content, which I'll be discussing at the end of the presentation. Our focus today is on analytics that matter in talent acquisition, and you'll probably hear me say TA for short quite a bit. So let's look at what you'll be learning today. I'll start by defining KPIs and the importance behind identifying these focus areas. Next, I'll talk about what I consider to be great examples of which analytics matter most in talent acquisition. While many of you may be familiar with these already, maybe let this video serve as a refresher, or maybe this is the push that you need to consider using a CRM or an ATS like Jobvite if you're not already our customer. So in fact, if you are interested in learning more, a large portion of what I cover today can be found in various blog articles at jobvite.com, and you can find those under the Resources tab. And then finally, I'll wrap up with a summary of today's topics, and I'll tell you about what's coming next in the Jobvite Summer to Evolve series this week. If you have watched any of my other Recruiter Skill Session videos, you might see a pattern in how I like to begin, and that's with a clear definition of the topic at hand. I know when we say analytics or metrics, a lot of us picture graphs, charts, and other images related to reporting. However, if we talk about how to display these results, we also have to start with choosing what to measure. So before we can go to point B, we have to start with point A, and that's where KPIs come in. KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators, and your talent acquisition team will need to decide which areas are the most important to focus on and what to measure. So take a pulse on your current hiring process, needs, openings, and gather feedback from any invested parties, and this would include hiring managers, upper-level management, anyone who might request to see where costs are coming from within the talent acquisition team. And being able to spot any bottlenecks will not only reduce overall time spent dedicated to these processes, but that time is ultimately saving your company money as well, which is always a plus. So to keep things realistic, try to limit your KPIs to the top 4 or 5 in order to really tackle making the necessary changes to see those improvements. Now, if you do say we have 10 different areas that really need work, try to prioritize which need your immediate attention. And once you see those positive results starting to form, you can then move down your list. But better yet, if the top of your list has any impact on the other KPIs below it, they could actually improve on their own. So as a quick example, you can see here on my screen, if my team has chosen the focus area of increasing the number of new candidates, and this could mean overall candidates for the entire company, or this could be more specific, like overall candidates per department or rec specific. One of the components to really look at is where are these candidates applying from, I should say. Now, this is going to give your team insight on which marketing strategies produce the most candidates, and then based on number of hires, the quality of those candidates. So if you notice a high number of applicants coming from one form of social media, but you're also noticing that those applicants haven't been converting to hires, or maybe even interviews for that matter, you'll want to shift your focus on the source that has produced the highest quality of candidates, and then see if you can work on increasing the number of those overall applicants. Now, let's talk about which analytics matter the most in talent acquisition. At a glance, the 5 key areas that I would like you to consider are time to fill and time to hire. It's really important to realize the difference between the two and then understand why they're both equally critical. You should also gauge the effectiveness of your outbound marketing efforts, because this directly impacts the number of prospects, applicants, candidates, and hires. For conversion rates, these really happen throughout the recruiting and hiring process. So we'll talk about going beyond just converting a candidate into a new hire. Now, another familiar term in talent acquisition is the recruitment funnel. So while KPIs and metrics will yield very different results for every unique company, generally the recruitment funnel will consist of at least 5 major stages that we'll talk through one by one. And then finally, talent acquisition forecasting. The closest thing I would say to a crystal ball when it comes to hiring. Forecasting is going to give your team a better idea of possible openings and needs in the future. So let's go ahead and start with the difference between time to hire and time to fill. Time to hire spans from the time when a candidate applies to the job through their start date or offer accepted, whereas time to fill is going to measure the time when a job is posted until the role has been filled. I do think it's very easy to get these two mixed up, so that's why I wanted to clearly show you the difference, but it's important to get a realistic idea of the length of time it takes to get candidates through your hiring process. So over time, if your company looks at how long quality hires are in the process all the way through the offer acceptance stage, you can determine where, if necessary, the process could improve. So for example, if you see the time to fill on a role itself was very long, but the time to hire was short, you might want to determine, how did that happen? Did you post the job at the wrong time, or did something like a successful campaign reach the candidate? And then from there, you can start tailoring how you reach out to candidates and when, based on those types of results. So time to hire versus time to fill can be very beneficial to your team. Now, as recruiters, I do think sometimes we forget just how closely linked we are to our marketing teams. We have really similar goals. And the way that they want to attract leads, that's the way we want to attract talent. As I mentioned in the last section, if we start to notice more qualified candidates are applying as a direct result of maybe an email campaign or a hiring event or anything like that, not only do we credit the timing of when that email was sent and also the target audience it was sent to, but you have to also think about this. The content included in that email probably had marketing elements all throughout. So instead of an email campaign, let's actually talk about a hiring event. And that, again, can be in person or virtually. But what attracts and keeps the attention of not only active prospects, but also passive, is going to depend on how we market our job openings, but even more so, our company as a whole. If a prospect finds our career site inviting enough to click on the page and intriguing enough to remain in the page session for more than a few seconds, then that's really the start of converting a prospect to an applicant. And so that's a good segue into talking about conversion rates as well. I want to mention that when I think about conversion rates, I'm guilty of focusing on the larger picture at hand. So I think of converting a prospect to a hire, which is a really big conversion, but to get there, you need to break it down and consider the conversion rates that happen at each step. So I discussed the importance of the attraction rate with prospects, but what happens next? If your prospects are becoming applicants at a higher rate, you might look at how many applicants you have per open requisition. Let's say you have a really tough position to fill, and you notice you're not getting many applicants. As we all know, every applicant who applies to a role doesn't also mean they're qualified enough to move on to an interview. So by discovering these types of conversion rate results, your team can look into changing their marketing strategy or even go back to the root of the issue, which could be the job description, and really make sure that you're phrasing it in a way that's going to appeal to the ideal candidate. Now that your team has maybe looked at how many applicants have moved on to the interview stage, what's the conversion rate of interviews to offer? If you have a higher rate, this could mean that you're very selective, or maybe again, it's that you just don't have enough candidates to choose from. So as you can see here, looking at these rates, not every conversion rate that's higher necessarily means it's better. So you have to really dig deeper, not just in the end results, but try to see by comparison what is causing the number that you're getting. Finally, offers accepted. How many times has your team selected a candidate who everyone evaluated with high remarks, and you thought they're surely going to answer, your offer with a yes and join your team, and then all of a sudden they turn you down? I would really hope that this rate's low, but no matter what, wouldn't you like to be able to assess what could cause that decline? If great hires aren't willing to relocate, then your team might have to consider something like remote possibilities. If you keep seeing declines based on salary, there might need to be a bigger discussion there about how can we budget in order to get the quality candidates that our company needs in these positions. And so again, these types of results can lead to more discussions outside of your team, but they're all very important. Now, with each conversion rate, there is so much to learn. And as anything related to reporting and analytics, the more time that passes, or if you have the availability of historical data, that can only help. So I would encourage listeners today to also think about using the Jobvite Evolve Talent Acquisition Framework, or the Evolve TA framework. If you've noticed, we did name this series The Summer to Evolve for a reason. That's because we really believe in what the TA framework has to offer. Your company can truly benefit from assessing where improvements can be made. And truthfully, assessments can be done at every stage. So what I would consider, if I were all of you listening today, take a moment, if you're jotting down notes, to go to jobvite.com. There is a section there just about the Jobvite Evolve Talent Acquisition Framework, and there's a lot you can all learn. But I do want to stay on topic and go on to our next section about the recruitment funnel. But of course, I had to mention the Evolve TA framework as well. Similar to how we look at conversion rates through the hiring process, it's important to identify the different stages of the recruitment funnel and note that every stage is equally important and presents an opportunity to measure for improvement. Most people in talent acquisition should recognize what a recruitment funnel looks like, and I would bet that when I mentioned it earlier, a lot of you probably had the image in your mind with different sections labeled similar to what you see on my screen. Now, while there may be some differences in what we call each stage, the underlying basics of what's happening are pretty universal. So the attraction stage goes hand in hand with employment branding. While your career site isn't the only source of applicants entering the funnel, as you know, marketing goes beyond the careers page. This is going to lead to the next stage of the recruitment funnel, which is the application stage. And this is where applicants are becoming candidates and they're moving from being passive to active. Now, your active candidates are going into the screening stage, and this is where they can get your company's full candidate experience from that first recruiter phone screen through the rest of their interviews with other team members, peers, hiring managers, and so on. Now, after a qualified candidate has made it through the interview or screening stage, they progress to the offer stage. You can also look at this as the candidate selection stage, because this is the time when your team has chosen the ideal candidate that you want to make an offer to. And finally, that leads to the bottom of the funnel, which is the offer acceptance stage. And this means your hiring process is finalized. The candidate has now accepted the offer, and you can start gaining insights on your process as a whole. So from start to finish, or in this case of a funnel, from top to bottom. Last but not least, TA forecasting is crucial to ensure your organization's success. As we all know, things change very quickly, and while we should do the best we can to plan ahead for things like employee attrition, retirement, and leaves of absences, there are bound to be unexpected vacancies throughout the year too. So perhaps you've started to keep a short list of candidates warm for those high churn type of positions in order to keep the pipeline strong. But what if over time, those positions are no longer the ones that need the strong pipeline? Your team has to look closely at industry trends and any statistics that can help gain a better idea of what could help in predicting the future of your staffing numbers sooner rather than later. In a nutshell, forecasting is really about being proactive and filling a need with a quality candidate. So with reactive hiring, if your team feels the pressure to fill a spot with a candidate who may be an okay fit, but doesn't really check all of the boxes for the ideal candidate, you're taking a greater risk. Not only have you lost some money and time because of the wrong hire, but now you're back to square one with having to fill that same role and doing so quickly. So in summary, when it comes to talent acquisition, metric-driven data can start to feel overwhelming at first. But to avoid those feelings, I really hope that today's presentation gave you the confidence necessary to start truly analyzing what matters the most. So remember to do that. You want to determine your top 4 or 5 KPIs. Trying to do too much at once, that's where that overwhelming feeling comes from. So make it realistic and easy to digest by seeing those top 4 or 5 KPIs start to slowly improve. And then you can move forward and start working on other KPIs. Now you'll want to measure both the time to hire and time to fill rates. Those numbers are really important, and part of that is looking at when applicants are applying for your roles. And not just when, but also how, and that leads to conversion rates. So with conversion rates, you know that they're critical at every step in the process. So utilize something like the JobVite Evolve TA framework to assist your team in finding those areas for improvement. From attracting prospects to nurturing and engaging with candidates, every stage of the recruitment funnel is equally important. And lastly, TA forecasting is essential for both the expected and unexpected vacancies within your organization. It's always better to be proactive, so just stay in the know on any industry trends that could impact your future hiring. So what's next It's hard to believe, but this is the last session in our recruiter skill sessions. So don't forget, you can check out summertoevolve.com for all 12 weeks of the S2E free content. And with this week, you can visit the summertoevolve.com to sign up for either one of these webinars. But on Wednesday, Too Talented will be about talent acquisition analytics. And on Thursday, the JobBite Demo Day is going to cover how to drive better business outcomes with data-driven recruiting. If you feel like you've missed out on anything on social media with us, please check out the hashtag JobBiteS2E, and you can visit jobbite.com to find out more about us, our customer stories, and resources. I know I've talked a lot today about how I've found information on our blog, so please visit jobbite.com. That's some more free content that we just want to help provide to you. I really hope that you enjoyed the entire JobBite Summer to Evolve series and were able to learn a little bit, maybe something new, maybe something that you forgot. But these recruiter skill sessions and all of the other content we have, we just hope that you found some value in it because we enjoyed bringing it to you. So for the last time, I want to say be well and happy recruiting.